18 months have passed since that October afternoon when 17-year-old Emily Harrison climbed up to the attic of her home and never came back down. Her case became one of the most unsettling unsolved crimes in the state, an account that makes every homeowner question how safe a house truly is. Over the last year and a half, this story has moved through the Harrisons' living room, the detectives' folders, the neighbors' memories, and the experts' reports. Each voice trying to understand what happened that day and who took the girl. October 28, 2023. That year, Halloween fell on a Saturday, and the Harrison family in Middlebrook, like many of their neighbors, was getting ready. Laura Harrison, Emily's mother, always loved Halloween. Decorations, candy, children in costumes. Their house at the corner of Maple was known as one of the most elaborately dressed in the neighborhood. Today, she tells it differently. Her hands won't stop shaking. A 50-year-old woman who looks older than her years. Dark crescents under her eyes. Ash-gray strands through chestnut hair. I used to love Halloween, she says. Now I can't even look at pumpkins. Every aisle of decorations makes me sick. She pauses and stares out the window. Beyond the glass, quiet streets, neat lawns, playgrounds, a place where nothing bad is supposed to happen. That day was overcast, a low gray sky, a cold wind. The forecast warned of rain by evening. Fewer trick-or-treaters, maybe, Laura thought. So she decided to make up for it with more decorations. Around 3 in the afternoon, Laura asked Emily to go up to the attic and bring down the remaining boxes. Emily agreed, reluctantly. 17 years old, a senior at Middlebrook High, plans to meet friends that evening. She didn't want to spend the day dressing the house. She rolled her eyes, said the attic was dusty and dark. 10 minutes, Laura insisted. Just 10 minutes. If only she had let it go. Laura's voice breaks. Jeff Harrison, her husband, places a hand on her shoulder. He says nothing. 53 years old, an engineer at a local company. He has barely spoken since their daughter disappeared. At 4:03 p.m., a neighbor's security camera caught Emily alive for the last time. A glimpse through her second-floor window as she passed by, moving toward the door that leads to the attic. The final visual confirmation she was there. Laura remembers the sounds, the creak of the steps, the attic hatch, and then silence. 10 long minutes. She was outside on the porch, laying out decorations. Jeff was in the garage, working on a shelf. Nothing seemed wrong. Emily was upstairs, searching for boxes. It was ordinary, until it wasn't. At 4:23 p.m., Laura heard a sound she cannot forget. A heavy thud. Something falling. Then a short cry that cut off mid-breath. She dropped the decorations and ran inside. I shouted her name, she says. I ran up the stairs. Jeff bolted from the garage when he heard her scream. They reached the second floor. The attic door stood open. The ladder was there. Emily did not answer. Jeff went up first. What he saw hollowed them both out. The attic was empty. Emily was nowhere. The fold-down ladder was half collapsed, like someone had tripped it or kicked it loose on purpose. Several boxes of decorations were strewn across the floor. One lay open, its contents spilled. But the worst detail sat on the far wall. The small dormer window to the backyard stood wide open. Cold wind clawed through the opening. On the sill, smudges of dirt and a few drops of blood. Detective Robert Chen, Middlebrook veteran with 25 years on the job, arrived within 20 minutes of the 911 call. Compact frame, watchful eyes, more than 100 missing person cases behind him. Emily Harrison's case felt unlike any other from the first step. In interview, he remembers the scene with a thick case folder open on the table.
When I got there, the parents were in a panic, he says. They had searched the house, shouting her name, calling her phone. We could hear it ringing somewhere upstairs, but they couldn't find it. That was the first bad sign. Chen's team started with the attic. Typical for the neighborhood. Roughly 20 square meters,
Low ceiling with wooden beams, a few boxes, old furniture. The dormer window measured about 60 by 80 centimeters, large enough for an adult to squeeze through. On the floor, the signs you hope not to find. Boxes knocked over, contents scattered. Near the window, Emily's mobile phone. The screen was cracked, as if it had fallen hard. And across the wooden planks, shallow, clawed scratches, the kind you make when you're fighting to hold on to anything you can touch. The most disturbing discovery came from forensic specialist Maria Garcia, 36 years old, 10 years on the job. She noticed what everyone else missed. In the lab, she lays out the photographs. "Look here," she says. In the attic's far corner, tucked behind an old dresser, a makeshift living space, an old blanket folded into a mattress, several empty plastic water bottles, wrappers from protein bars, boxes from ready-made meals. Someone had been living here. That finding changed everything. Someone had been entering the Harrison home and hiding in their attic. Days, weeks, the trash gave a shocking answer. Receipts stuck to the wrappers, the oldest dated October 5th, almost 4 full weeks before Emily disappeared. Someone lived above this family for nearly a month, and no one knew. Chen pressed the parents about anything unusual. Laura remembered the food, sandwiches gone, fruit missing, entire portions of dinner that weren't there in the morning. Once, an entire pizza saved for the next day. She scolded Emily for late-night snacks, but it wasn't Emily. Someone was coming down from the attic at night while the family slept and stealing food.
A sweep of the refrigerator turned up fingerprints that belonged to no one in the family. Jeff remembered something else. At night, sometimes he heard things, the groan of old boards, soft steps over the bedroom ceiling. He blamed the house, wind, wood expanding and shrinking with the cold. "One night I woke at 3 a.m., he says. A creak. I thought maybe a raccoon on the roof. He walked the rooms, checked the windows. Everything was locked. He went back to bed. If only he had opened the attic, if only he had checked." His voice breaks. They are the first words he manages in the entire interview. Laura takes his hand. Detective Chen moved to the neighbors. In the week before the disappearance, several people reported strange late-night sightings. Margaret Collins, 72 years old, lives across the street from the Harrisons. She told the detective she saw something unusual about 3 weeks before Emily disappeared. In her cozy living room, walls crowded with photos of grandchildren, she sets down a plate of cookies, then grows serious. "It was around 2 in the morning, she says. I couldn't sleep. Old age." She sat by the window, watching the street. A clear night. Moonlight on the lawns, then light in the Harrisons' attic window. Faint, like a phone screen or a small flashlight. She thought maybe Laura was looking for something, but it was so late. Margaret saw that glow twice more the following week, always around 2, sometimes closer to 3, always in the attic window. She didn't think much of it until Emily vanished. Another neighbor, Thomas Weinberg, 34, a programmer, had a camera aimed at his driveway that also caught a sliver of the Harrisons' backyard. He pulls up the saved clips. "The police asked for footage from the day of the disappearance," he says, "but I checked earlier dates too. Look at this." On screen, October 12th. Timestamp, 2:37 a.m. The Harrisons' backyard, dim, lit only by the moon. A thin figure in dark clothing appears, climbing down the gutter from the attic side. He drops to the grass, scans the yard, then moves quickly to the fence and slips over. Weinberg switches clips. October 19th, 3 a.m. The same figure returns, over the fence, across the yard, up the gutter, vanishing into the dark. In total, 8 recordings over 3 weeks. An unknown man leaving the Harrisons' house at night and coming back. From the gaps between exits and returns, he was gone about an hour to an hour and a half, long enough to get food, buy supplies, disappear, and return. Detective Chen sent the footage for enhancement. Experts tried to sharpen frames, pull heights, and builds from motion. The conclusion offered little comfort. Male, about 5'9" to 5'11", slim build, age
Undeterminable, face hidden by a hood, dark, unremarkable clothing, no logos, a confident gait, like a man who knows what he's doing. This wasn't his first time inside someone else's home. Forensics processed the attic for traces. They found many fingerprints, hairs, and DNA. Most belonged to the Harrison family, but not all. Maria Garcia explains the identification flow. Unknown prints from water bottles and food wrappers, an additional set lifted from a wooden beam near the makeshift bed, run through national criminal indexes, military files, immigration checks. No matches. The DNA profile from hair and saliva indicated a white male, roughly 30 to 45. But without a database hit, the profile was a shape without a name. We lifted unknown fingerprints from water bottles, food wrappers, and a wooden beam near the makeshift bed, Garcia says. They were run through every available database, national criminal indexes, military files, immigration records. No matches. This man doesn't exist in any system. Hair and saliva on a bottle yielded a DNA profile. A white male, estimated between 30 and 45, but without a database hit, the profile meant little for identification. On the attic windowsill, they found blood. Testing confirmed it belonged to Emily. They also found microscopic fabric fibers caught in the splinters of the wooden frame. Denim from the jeans Emily wore that day. It confirmed what the scene suggested. She was pulled through the window, likely by force. She fought, she clawed, she bled, and the resistance was overpowered. Detective Chen reconstructed the likely sequence. Around 4 in the afternoon, Emily climbed to the attic for decorations. At some point, she encountered the person hiding there. Maybe she heard a breath, saw a shift in the dark. She tried to call out. She started to scream. He lunged, a hand over her mouth. A brief struggle. Emily dropped her phone. Boxes went over. He dragged her to the window. How does one man get a 17-year-old through a small dormer and down from the second story? Experts believe he used a rope or pre-rigged line for a fast exit. Fresh scrapes and friction marks on the gutter pipe beneath the dormer matched a weighted descent on a rope. On the ground below the window, they found a small amount of blood matching Emily's DNA and shoe prints. Garcia holds up the cast. Men's boots, around a U.S. size 10, a common brand sold in dozens of stores across the country. The tread was worn, suggesting years of use. In the grooves, particles of dirt and leaf matter. Analysis tied the soil composition to a forested greenbelt north of town. Police organized a search of that greenbelt. More than 200 volunteers combed the woods for a week. Tracking dogs were given Emily's clothing for scent. They took the trail from the Harrisons' house, across the backyard, through several streets, to an old dirt road leading toward the forest. And there, the trail ended. Chen believes a vehicle was staged at that spot. The abductor planned the exit in advance, parked where there were no cameras, carried or dragged the girl to the road, put her in the vehicle, and drove away. It all happened within about 20 to 25 minutes. City cameras on the main roads were pulled for the right window of time. Dozens of vehicles passed, nothing that stood out. Most belonged to locals with clean, confirmed alibis. One vehicle did catch attention. A white Ford Transit van with no markings rolled through downtown at 4:47 p.m., heading toward the highway out of town. The plates were caked in grime, unreadable on video. An alert went out for unmarked white Ford Transit vans. 2 days later, patrol found a match, abandoned in a dead industrial zone, 50 kilometers from Middlebrook. Checks showed the van had been stolen the day before Emily disappeared from a construction company lot. Forensics processed the cargo bay. Blood traces in the floor seams. Tests confirmed it was Emily Harrison's. Several long chestnut hairs, consistent with Emily's. A torn thread from her shirt. Garcia flips through photographs of the interior. It was nearly clean, she says. Someone tried to wipe everything, but you can't fully erase blood. It seeps into seams, soaks into the material. We found enough to prove Emily had been inside, likely injured, likely bleeding. And that was all. No usable offender prints, no stray hairs, no extra trace. Whoever drove it was careful. Gloves, maybe even a protective coverall. The van had been dumped where cameras do not watch. How the abductor left that place remains a mystery. A second vehicle staged nearby, or an accomplice to pick him up. There were no witnesses. Chen dug into Emily's life for motives: friends, teachers, social media. The picture was of an ordinary 17-year-old. She did well in school, a grade point average around 3.7. She planned on college, wanted to study psychology. She played volleyball, joined theater, kept a small circle of close friends. She dated a boy named Brian Kennedy. Over the past 4 months, meeting Brian at a cafe near his campus, the same sentences circle back. Emily was amazing, he says. Kind, funny, always there for you. We had plans, same college, an apartment together in a year. Now, none of that exists. Brian was thoroughly checked by police. His alibi held. At the time Emily vanished, he was at basketball practice at his school, corroborated by teammates, coaches, and multiple cameras. Detectives looked for enemies, conflicts, threats. Nothing. No drugs, no debts, no serious fights. Everything pointed away from a personal grievance and toward a crime of preparation and opportunity. He did not choose Emily because of who she was. He chose the house, the moment, the access. And then he took her. Emily wasn't targeted for who she was. She was taken because the opportunity was perfect. Wrong place, wrong time. A house the offender could enter and study from above. Why this house, though? Chen checked every recent worker who'd been inside. The plumber, the electrician, the internet installer, delivery couriers, all verified. All with alibis for the day Emily vanished. None of their prints matched the attic. No one stood out. 1 month after the disappearance, the detective received an anonymous call. A man's voice, distorted, likely through a modulator, offered a chilling riddle. The recording plays with a mechanical edge. She is where cold stops time, a place where no one searches for the past. You will never find her alive. 14 seconds, then the line went dead. Tracing led nowhere. A prepaid phone, cash purchase, bought in a store out of state. The store's cameras were down that day. Experts dissected the phrase, where cold stops time. Possibilities: a freezer room, a refrigerated warehouse, a decommissioned cold storage plant, a winter forest. Anywhere cold preserves what heat would change. Police worked down the list. Every cold facility within 100 kilometers. Nothing. They searched abandoned meatpacking sites and fish plants. Nothing. Was the caller the offender or a cruel imitator? Chen leans toward a hoax, but he cannot rule out the real thing. 3 months after Emily disappeared, another clue surfaced. A hunter in the northern Connecticut woods, about 70 kilometers from Middlebrook, found a backpack. Inside, school textbooks with the name Emily Harrison. The pack hung from a tree branch, far from trails or roads, as if someone had placed it there to be found. The books were rain-wet, but still readable. Garcia processed the backpack in the lab. No fingerprints beyond Emily's and her parents'. No blood. Weathering suggested the pack had been there at least a week. Why hang it there? To mislead? To point the way? Police ran a full search of the area. For a week, teams swept the woods. Thermal cameras, ground-penetrating radar. Nothing. No body. No clothing. No sign of a camp or shelter. 6 months later, April 2024, something else surfaced. A traveler driving through Maine found a child's toy on the shoulder of a rural road. A plush rabbit. Inside the seam, a name was carved: Emily. Laura confirmed the toy was her daughter's. Emily had kept it since childhood. It sat on her bedroom shelf. Her favorite, a gift from her 5th birthday, kept all these years. Why was it in Maine? Emily had never been there. The find was roughly 250 kilometers from Middlebrook, on a route leading toward the Canadian border. A terrifying possibility. Had Emily been taken out of the country? Federal agents joined the case, exploring a trafficking angle. Databases checked, border cameras pulled, coordination with Canadian police initiated. No trace of Emily Harrison was found. Today, 19 months after the disappearance, the case remains open. Detective Chen is still on it, though active ground searches ended long ago.
Emily's parents have turned her room into a memorial. Photographs, awards, her things, untouched. Back in the Harrisons' house, Laura opens the door and shows the room. Pink walls, band posters, a desk with textbooks, everything the way it was that October day. "I can't pack her things," she says. "I can't accept that she won't come back. Every morning I wake up and think, maybe today they'll call and say they found her alive. But with each passing day, the chances slip away." Statistics are merciless. Most kidnapping victims not found within the first 48 hours are never found alive. The family is offering a reward of $75,000 for any information that leads to Emily. Pages have been set up on social media and are updated regularly. The community has not forgotten. Every year on October 28th, a vigil is held, but the central question still hangs in the air. Who hid in the Harrisons' attic? Why this house? How did he learn the layout, the family's habits? Chen has a theory, one he cannot prove. "I think he watched the house in advance, maybe for weeks, studying the routine, choosing a moment when entry would be easiest," he says. Maybe he watched several houses and selected a victim. Emily was unlucky to be in this one. FBI profilers sketched a psychological portrait. A man between 30 and 50, organized, deliberate, possibly with survival training, military background, or a criminal past. Able to live in uncomfortable conditions for weeks. Careful, methodical, intelligent. This may not have been his first crime. Detective Chen reached out across state lines looking for similar patterns. He found 3 cases over the last 10 years. In 2, families reported steps overhead and missing food, but did nothing. In one case, in Vermont 5 years ago, a young woman disappeared under nearly identical circumstances. The case is still unsolved. Maybe this is a traveler, a serial offender moving state to state. Maybe there are other victims no one has connected yet. The most frightening thought is the simplest one, that somewhere, tonight, this man is back on someone's attic beams, watching a new family, measuring silence, preparing the next crime. In Middlebrook, habits changed after Emily. People installed alarms and cameras. They check attics and basements on a schedule. They lock every window, even the small ones no one thinks a body can fit through. The neighborhood doesn't sound the same anymore. Every creak raises a pulse. Margaret Collins remembers the weeks after the disappearance. "This is a quiet place," she says. "Nothing happens here. Kids in the street, doors left open." After Emily, everything changed. Now we all flinch at every noise. Laura and Jeff Harrison still live in the same house. Friends told them to move. They can't. If Emily comes back, this is where she will come. This is her house, their house. They will be here. But the attic door is nailed shut. Neither Laura nor Jeff can climb those steps. Too much pain. Too many ghosts in the wood. Detective Chen hasn't given up, even as the odds grow thin. Somewhere there is an answer. Someone saw something. Someone recognizes a pattern. Someone remembers a man who doesn't sleep at night and keeps rope in his trunk. One truth can thaw a cold case. Emily Harrison remains missing. Her school photo hangs in the station, in post offices, on the boards where missing children wait for eyes that still pay attention. A 17-year-old with chestnut hair and green eyes, smiling at a camera that did not know what was coming. And so the story settles where all unfinished stories live, between fear and vigilance, between routine and watchfulness. What if evil isn't a shadow in the woods, but a patience in the rafters? What if safety is not a promise, but a practice, renewed each night? Where cold stops time, answers do not decay. They wait. And somewhere between the attic hatch and the sleepless street below, the truth about a girl who went up for a box of decorations is still within reach, if someone finally is willing to see it. Thanks for watching. Share your opinion in the comments.